Well, I'm back out banished to the van, which isn't a bad thing because it is a springtime at last. The leaves are getting ready to bust forth out here, and it's going to be a summertime in the van. But that means I get no internet. I get no internet out here, so that means no more of the singing things from my iPod of picking up stuff from the Schaefer family thing where I do the hymn history. So no more live stream either for the summer at least. But I'm going to be doing them from this book. So it's going to be a little bit more of a visual also, because I'm going to do it like I do the Bible reading and show what I'm reading here. So hopefully, let's see, let me just check to see what song this is, make sure I know it. Oh yes. I think I might have already read this from the Schaefer family thing, but we'll continue on anyway. This hymn, often used in communion services, was the result of some very interesting coincidences that took place in the Monument Street Methodist Church of Baltimore, Maryland in the spring of 1865. The church's cabinet organ had been moved to the home of the organist, Thomas Grape, while the church was undergoing some remodeling. Since he had access to the organ all the time, Grape spent many hours sitting at the keyboard practicing and composing. He was trying to write a tune for a hymn composed by William Bradbury and finally came up with one that satisfied him. He entitled the melody he had written, "All to Christ I Owe," and gave it to the pastor of the Monument Street Church, Reverend George Schrick. Reverend Schrick did not feel that Grape's music was quite right for Bradbury's poem, and he tucked it away in his files. Elvina Mabel Hall was a member of the choir at the same church where Thomas Grape was organist. She and her husband had been faithful members there for many years, and she loved being part of the choir and singing the lovely hymns and anthems each week. One Sunday morning in the spring of 1865, I think I just sang the song yesterday. There's one way to find out. I would still have it on the page on my iPod, and I could do it in offline mode. Let me check this out. This would be pretty wild. Let's see. Okay, let's go here and here, and let's see what the song says here. Okay. Actually, I sang to my mother the other day, and I got off the page where I was. Let's see. Oh, well, let's continue on. I know I did this song just recently. My fading memory doesn't allow me to remember, but maybe you didn't hear it. Okay, well, here we go. She began to think about the pastor's words regarding God's forgiveness and all that Christ had done to provide redemption for mankind, but specifically for her, as she meditated on this, she became more and more filled with gratitude, and she felt a compulsion to put her thoughts down on paper. Sitting there in the choir loft, however, she had no paper. Then she spied the hymn book and opened to the blank flyleaf. She began jotting the verses of an original poem. By the time Reverend Schrick finished his sermon, Elvina Hall had completed all 4 verses of the hymn poem. After services ended that Sunday, Elvina waited until the parishioners had left and approached her pastor. She handed him the hymnal with her poem written on the flyleaf and explained why she had written it, apologizing for being inattentive during the sermon. The Reverend Schrick read Mrs. Hall's poem, and a strange expression came over his face. He quickly located the paper with Thomas Grape's melody on it and found the words and music matched beautifully. 3 years later, in 1868, Reverend Schrick had the poem published in a collection entitled Sabbath Chords. Since that time, Jesus paid it all. has been included in gospel songbooks and hymnals around the world. How interesting it is that God could move the heart, or could move in the heart of an amateur church organist to write a melody for a hymn not yet composed. Then, in his mysterious ways, he inspired an unsuspecting choir member to scribble in the flyleaf of her hymnal the words that would perfectly match that melody, and finally he would lead both the author and composer to give their work to their pastor, who would bring the two together to produce a beautiful musical tribute to God's redemptive work. It is fitting that the chorus reminds the singer of the true author by affirming, "All to him I owe." I hear the Savior say, "Thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Lord, now indeed I find thy power and thine alone can change the leper's spots and melt the heart of stone. For nothing good have I, whereby thy grace to claim. I'll wash my garments white in the blood of Calvary's Lamb, and when before the throne I stand in him complete, Jesus died my soul to save, my lips shall still repeat, Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow.